You're listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast, discussing all aspects of precision and long-range rifle shooting. This episode is brought to you by Impact Dynamics. And now, over to your host.
Well, hello and welcome to the Precision... Andy, you're on tonight. You're on.
Hello and welcome to the Precision Shooting Podcast. You're here with Rusty and my name is Andy.
Yeah, true. This is episode number 153, and so far we're off to a flyer. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm glad you remember, or you know what.
I know what episode you're up to.
Yeah, that's it.
Good.
I just rock up for the free beer.
Who said anything about free beer? Anyway, that's all right. Good. Here we go. Josh, you got noise playing? Well, that's Andy. Andy's the one got the podcast playing. Someone's.
Might have been me.
Oh, it was Josh. Happy birthday, Josh, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, pressing buttons and blowing out candles.
What's it like to be 18 again?
Pretty good, actually. Pretty good.
Yeah, looks 18. Oh, very good. Excellent. Cool. Well, here we are. No butters tonight. Hooray!
Yeah.
Hooray! We had Butters on last week, which was excellent. Always good to chat to the Centurion.
Was.
And in Butters related news, the Heatstroke Open has opened for members, and by the time this podcast goes out in audio form, it will be open for everyone to join in and go along to. So you booked in.
I am in. I am ready. No. I am in. I am not ready.
I am in. And for the first time ever, I booked into a PRS match.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So there we go. If you want another reason to go to Darwin, beating me is probably a good. You at least guarantee one further place up the ranking is probably a good reason to go.
No, you'll show your true colours. Yeah, I'm sure you'll shine.
No. The first one I'll show my true colours. So these things are not compatible. So that's going to be really exciting. I'm really keen for that. You have never been to Darwin for a match. Have you been to Darwin?
I've been to Darwin for a stopover, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, moseyed on up to Asia.
I was going to say, where do you go from Darwin? But okay, all right, you've stopped over in Darwin.
Yeah, but never really checked out the place itself, so I'm pretty excited to do a few of the sightseeing and bits and pieces. But even along, on the way up there.
Let's not delve into that too much. We've got a few things planned, but I think we'll save that for a future episode because...
on the way up there, I'm just going to be asleep, so that's what's happening.
We have some plans for the way up there, so we look forward to that. The match is great. It is a brilliant match. It's a really good environment. Darwin's a pretty laid back place, and the match follows suit. It's really really chilled out. It's good. Interesting weather to shoot in. It's always muggy and humid, but not as bad as a wet season. So August is a beautiful time to do it. Generally, you look for the temperature for the 4 or 5 days, 6 days, however long you're going to be there for, and it hovers between. There's a bit of variation. It hovers between about 31 and 32 degrees. Yeah, nice. So there's a bit of temperature fluctuation to worry about with your ammo, but aside from that, it's fantastic place to be. So that is what's going on with the PRS stuff. Yep. What else is happening, Andy?
Well, I've been. I guess the last range day I was RO for the day.
Oh, hello. Is that no? That's not your first one, is it?
No. I've been RO plenty of times.
Right. Well, it's a wonderful highlight then. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up.
No, but I mean, it's one of those things I enjoy to do. Enjoy doing. Being part of a club, you try and you help out where you can, and you want to try and grow the club and all that sort of stuff. But it is good, I guess, going to a range and not focusing on shooting. Sometimes it's nice to step back and watch other people do it and help out where you can, but not be like nagging. Like tell everyone they're doing it wrong.
Okay, fair enough. Each to their own.
Yeah, but it is. It was a really good day. I had a few new guys up there who were getting into it. Just giving them a crack on the 22 and the 223 and let them sling a few of my rounds down the range.
Brilliant.
I had a few to burn up. So, I love seeing them walk away with big smiles and not realising how easy it can be.
Yeah, it can be really daunting when you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, man. Well, we wanted to get into a little bit of that tonight, actually, but we've got a couple of other things to make mention. But we want to get into maybe some first shooting experiences and how we got into it and all that sort of stuff because. we often forget that, and you sort of you go to those ROing or watching some new guys come up, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that's right. I didn't understand that either. And you know, sometimes I've been so delved into it, and you're so far along the path, not necessarily an expert or anything, but just a lot of the basic stuff just is natural, and you know, you've done it for so long that you sort of forget what it was like, and the magic and the joy of like, oh my gosh, 200 meters? Are you serious? That's a long way.
That's it.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to see that on people's faces, and when they hear that ding come back from 500 meters and they're just over the moon. It's awesome. But speaking of 500 meters, I had some gear update. So this is the DFATs, which are these little optical collimators that go on the end of your scope, and these have just arrived back in. They haven't been in Australia for quite a while, and we have picked them up at Scoped Out, but not as a full plug here. But they're a cool little thing to use, and so the idea is that they allow your scope to focus down to 6, I get these numbers wrong, but you know, sort of 6 feet, 10 feet, that sort of thing. So 3-4 meters, somewhere in there, and you can get a really crisp, tight image because they've got a little lens in them, and that'll sort of improve that vision, so you can use like in your shed or whatever it is. You don't need a lot of room to be able to actually do some dry fire training, which is really, and actually moving from target to target and watching where you're sitting on it, rather than being a bit of a blur or having to try and step out to 10 meters or whatever your scope will focus down to. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, I've tried playing around with other options back home, and it doesn't really work too well like the other like hacks and bits and pieces you can try and do. You're either struggling for light, or everything's blurry, or you can't focus on your reticle and what you're trying to practice at, and there's a few issues going around, but no, I'm pretty stoked to get my hand on one of these.
You walked in, saw it, and went, all right, I need one of them. So anyway, that's something cool that's coming that is out. I mean, they've been around a long time. This is a Gen 2 variation, so it's a little bit different to what they used to be, like a flip-up cap on the front. This is a lot sturdier, uses reduction rings and sort of fits sort of scopes, and actually this like smaller new model, I'm sure guys will get this and be like, oh, that's too small, I need the bigger one. No, this you don't actually need that bigger an opening. This works really well. But you actually can open that sucker up and clean that glass on this model, which is I think pretty important. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. So I've got one of them. I've got a Burris XTR3 rocking up tomorrow for my rimfire, and I've got a match I've booked into now. So I need to do some of this practice business.
You mean with your DFAT?
Yeah. So that's I'm gonna focus on using this and actually set up training and do all those things. So we're gonna have to do another episode on like a training regime. So
no, definitely
we'll do that. We both have to start training, and then maybe we'll be able to do that. Actually, you did train, didn't you? Because you did so well at Monado. But let's not bring that up again.
I did not train at all. I fluked that. But it does make me want to step it up, and does make me want to try harder. So
good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, speaking of stepping it up and trying harder,
where's this going?
I don't know. I was hoping you would take over and think of something sensible to say out of that, but we have not. So the thing about you were talking about before about the joy of shooting. How did you first shoot? How did you get into it?
So I had a couple of mates who shot. Nothing really at a club sort of level. It was all just
paddock.
Paddocks, having fun with shotguns, going out for the odd spotlight, bits and pieces like that. And I just sort of tagged along, and did plenty of those trips of helping to hold the spotlight on a cold night, and helping out with all of that sort of stuff. And then once I started shooting, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And at that stage, you got no idea what the gear is. You just close the bolt and
someone hands you a 22 and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's it. And you're just like pumped up with adrenaline and going, woohoo, I'm such a cowboy, or tuck and roll. But so that's how I sort of got into it, just with friends who did it as a bit of a pastime. and a bit of hunting on the side and that sort of stuff. And then I'm pretty sure you and I hung out a few times and went to a few of the very early PRS sort of stuff, and that sort of opened my eyes to some pretty cool things.
You didn't shoot those, did you? You came out and helped sort of run them.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, some pretty cool stages back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's when I was like, like this is
sparked an interest.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. And it's that, I don't know, probably a lot of people have it, some people don't, but it's like, how far can I push this, or like how accurate can I get this? And that was one of the things the guy said on the weekend who was new to shooting. Just with the 22, like after 2.5 boxes of 22 ammo, it was like, I can see why this is a bit addictive. Like you're just trying to stretch it out and trying to hit these targets every time. But so that's how I started out, just with mates with toys, and then slowly progressed into the competitive side of stuff. And
went from there. Yeah, nice, mate. Well, my first shooting experience was when I was about 5 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah,
and it was 22, and it was on target first. And then we went out for bunnies, and I didn't shoot any of them, but I was out there, with same thing, just being in the ute or on the front seat probably at that age. Anyway, and then I remember probably about 8 is when I actually first shot bunnies, and it was always Dad's interest, and then I just sort of you go along and do it, and I really enjoyed it, and then I didn't really shoot for a long time there until I went over to England. Like I was always like, I'd love to go and shoot, but it was very hard. It was difficult. You're in that teenage years. You've got other distractions in life that are much more interesting at the time. And then I went over to the UK when I was 21, and we were staying on this property. I've probably told this story before on the podcast, but we were staying on this property. We were sitting down at the kitchen table, and we looked out the window onto this paddock across outside the window, and there were some bunnies there. And the guy was like, well, shotgun's in the corner. No, rifle's in the corner. You better take care of them. Oh, okay. We going, and it's like, well, there's a window there. So it was, I literally walked to the kitchen window, pull the gun up on the kitchen window sill. I open the window first, and then take the shot of the bunnies and be like, oh yeah, we got them. Huh. Jeez. Cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then he's like, well, sit down. We're going to finish dinner. Then we'll go get them. Okay, that's the way it works. And then we would walk around this sort of set aside paddock and shoot rabbits and with shotguns, and that's when it's the first time I shot a shotgun actually. Okay. Because when I was younger, Dad never let me shoot a shotgun because he only had a 12 gauge and it didn't have a recoil pad on it. Yeah. And so we went out and we shot all these rabbits, and it was, I really enjoyed it. I came back from that UK trip. In fact, I was planning to be there for like a day or 2 days and then go to London by myself because I was traveling with the family, and I changed. I stayed on that property for a week.
Nice.
And I think I ended up being in London for a couple of days and didn't particularly enjoy it. And so so being out in that sort of environment, I think someone gave me an air rifle and said, right, you can go and shoot in these paddocks for the day, and I just went around there.
And you were hooked.
It was, really enjoyed it. And so I came back really keen on shotgun, actually was my thing. And then a mate of ours who, you've been down to his property, we sort of got access to this property, and we would go down there, and we'd probably go down there every 3 weeks.
Yeah, right.
And the buy-in was a case of shotgun ammo, right? If you didn't have a case of shotgun ammo, don't bother showing up.
Yeah.
All right, a case of shotgun ammo and the appropriate amount of clays. And so over a bit of time, we all sort of pitched in and got these clay throwers. And they were, we ended up upgrading them to go up and down, left and right. And we bring the rifles along as well. And it was pretty much, it would be a full day, maybe an overnighter, and we would blast hundreds and hundreds of rounds of everything, and it was that proper paddock shooting where you just set up this little table out the back of the ute, and you sit there and you got a target down range that you have no idea how far away, but you think it's about 100 paces, and you're like, oh, it's 100 meters, we're good, and you just shoot it until there was no paper left, and then you're like, oh, this is not great, well, we should get some steel targets of some sort, shoot them, and then you're putting holes through them, you're like, why is it doing that? I thought, anyway, and then you work out you need Bisley targets. And so we had this properly, but we had this amazing property that we could go to, and then we started sort of understanding you could shoot a bit further than this 100 meters, and so we would sort of swing the angle of where we're shooting, and we ended up being able to get to 1,000 to 600 initially, and then we started like really changing how we set it up, and we're like, oh, okay, we can do 1,000 meters here.
Here we go.
And that's when started to understand like how things worked, and then we started sort of training, and it wasn't because we were like, oh man, we know so much, we should teach everyone. It was I was working in a gun shop part time, and people would come into the store and talk, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm here to buy my first gun, and you're like, oh awesome man, that's great news.
You want this and you want this.
What do you want?
Yeah.
And they're like 300 Win Mag and a Tikka T3 Lite, and you're like, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to shoot stuff. And you're like, oh, dude, like, I mean, also like great gun and all that sort of gear. If you're going to go after deer and like send a round off, then cool. But if this is your first gun, there's some reasons as to why maybe a 22. No, I want 300 Win Mag. All right, cool. Yep. No worries. 3 weeks later, they'll be back trading it in.
Yeah.
And we had that happen.
And a bruised shoulder.
multiple times. Multiple times, with the cut above the eyebrow. And no matter what you did, but it always felt like, I'm like, oh man, if I could take you out in the paddock and we could shoot together for half a day.
That's it.
You would see the reasoning why I'm suggesting maybe a 22 or 2-3 or what have you got access to? And you got us guys, what have you got access to shoot? I'm like, oh, mate's got a property with bunnies. Like, cool. And what are you getting? 300 Win Mag. Okay. All right, man. Like I understand the enthusiasm. You want something big and all that sort of gear. But there's that knowledge gap. And it led for many people that would come through to that diminishing of the experience of shooting. They'd come back in weeks, months later, trading that gun in. Oh, I didn't really enjoy it. And then you wouldn't see them again. And you're like, man, I was trying to tell you. And so we ended up setting up, what was Southern Shooters back then to be able to like come out with a day. Let's shoot a 22, 2-3, 308, 300 Win Mag. So you get the experience across them. You can see why like a heavy gun versus a light gun. We'd have a 308 and a really heavy gun, 308 and a light gun. Try the two. You're like, oh, it's the same cartridge, but wow, that's a different experience.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's sort of where we progressed to, and yes, that's why it started. And then the long range side of things, we were just shooting long range. There was no interest in training it. In fact, I didn't really think we knew it well enough to train it, and we kept getting harassed about, hey, can you teach us how to do it? Like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. And then we sat down, like it got ridiculous. So sat down, like wrote out a bit of a program and worked with a couple of guys who really knew what they were doing to sort of filter some of that stuff. I went out with a mate of mine, farmer mate, and we set up a gun. I went, right, how far can you shoot? He's like, 150 meters. I'm like, all right, cool. We're gonna hit 1,000 meters. He's like, all right, I'll give it a go. Yeah. And so it was really a test for me, is like, could I get him set up to, and I think it was about 3 shots in, he was on 1,000 meters. And like, all right, cool. All right, so we've got some legs here. Like what we'd written, the theory we'd put together was working in practice with someone who was not a brilliant shooter, but was fine. Could hit a bunny at 50 meters most of the time. Ish. Yeah.
Well, that's it. You just sort of broadening their horizon of knowledge and sort of leading them down a path of maybe the biggest isn't always better. But
it was that gap in knowledge that was just trying to fill. So that's why we went down that path. And then as things progressed, there's other dudes who were able to do it, and great, awesome. That's not, we had the laws change here, so we had to change what we were doing, and then I decided not to pick it up again because there was really rad dudes who were doing it. But anyway, we're way further than what we were going to talk about. Was there a moment for you, Andy, where like it clicked, like it made sense, where you're like, oh, you hear about this shooting long range and stuff, and then you actually put it together and you go, oh, it worked, it happened. Do you remember a particular?
There were plenty of moments where it went click. And then shortly followed by a humongous kaboom.
I've had plenty of moments where it's gone click and the RO's yelled 30 seconds. But anyway, that's unrelated.
I think I think early on so my first rifle was a 22.
Yep.
And, that was just a 50 meter planker, didn't really stretch it out. I think it was like, it cost me $200, like no big hopes there. And then my next one was a 270. And I was like, right, I'm getting this because, it's a lightweight 270 for hunting stuff. I don't really know why I got it. Again, that knowledge gap. It's like everyone's like, oh, it's a deer cartridge. If you ever want to go deer or shoot something big, you need a 270. And it's fast and flat. And I was like,
yeah, it's not. It's
cool.
not. It's a sensible deer cartridge.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It's not a ridiculous thing. But my question always came back to like, okay, great. Have you got a chance to shoot deer? And people were like, oh, no, I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, what can you shoot? And they're like, oh, mate's got some foxes. There's a problem. I'm like, cool. Let's
270.
Let's grab another cartridge. Anyway, that's all good. So you bought your 270 lightweight.
Yeah. And I think once I sort of zeroed that in, and then I was like, right, so this is meant to be a really fast, flat shooting cartridge. Let's see how far I can take it.
Yep.
And at that point, I'd skimped out on the scope and the rings and all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't
of course
it wasn't a very accurate system. But yeah, I mean, it was good fun just slinging lead, trying to get out to like 300, 400.
Yep.
And I wasn't very successful at that. And then I was like, probably the click moment was, right, this isn't going to do it for me. I need to get something that will. So I splashed out on a good Remington Varmint 223. And purely that system was just a bit more accurate. It was new. I got it new. And then I was like, right, I need a good scope on this. If I want to do this sort of stuff and be accurate, I need to get the good stuff.
Yep.
And that's sort of when it went click, where I was like, yeah, that's not doing it. Like, I need this. And then I think there was not so much when it made sense to me, but I remember a moment where we went out and an old friend, Mr. Noble.
Yep. An old friend, an old podcast host.
Podcaster.
Yeah. Your predecessor. Is that the word? Yeah.
Something like that.
Something. That's right. The previous Andy.
That's it. Yeah, you guys were shooting targets out at 800, 900 or something, and he had his long range rifle sitting there, and like I was just going, oh, this is back before I think I'd bought the 223.
Yeah, you had the 270 at that stage. I remember. Yeah. I remember because you did pretty well with that 270 that day, actually.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Yeah. I mean, for a 270, but no.
Yeah, my shoulder's so sore. There were moments there where I was like carrying around like a sock with sand, and I'd put that there in my shoulder. But yeah, I sort of saw his setup, and then he was just nailing that target, and that's when I think it sort of went click, going, okay, what I got isn't going to cut the mustard. So yeah.
Fantastic, man. Well, I remember a particular point where my understanding of scopes really sort of started clicking in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Is I'd always bought cheap scopes because that's what you do, and
you're blowing all the money on the rifle that you didn't need.
Yeah, you're just buying all these fancy guns and and of course, remembering that I'm looking at this through the lens of a shotgun shooter, right? No scopes, and hit stuff without scopes, so no big deal. And I remember like forking out because I got this 1.7 HMR.
Yep.
In a Marlin, which was a terrible gun.
So you've still got it.
It was horrible, and it would load like if you would load the bolt. You'd load a round, but the magazine wouldn't clip in properly, and the round would go underneath the barrel into the stock. Yeah, that's quality. Quality. So anyway, I had I bought this gun, and I'm like, you know what? This is the one. I'm going to lash out, and I bought a Tasco. Like a 6-24, I think it was. It was $238 I paid for it. Yep. I remember the price for some reason. It's probably wrong.
And you're like, that's 2 weeks worth of wages.
That is like 4 months worth. that was that for the scope was a lot of coin for me. I'm like, man, this is full on. Anyway, it's a terrible scope.
Can't I just look down the barrel? Like line up there.
It was not a good deal. And then I started working Night Force, and that was the moment click for me. And obviously not everyone gets the opportunity to work for a scope manufacturer or something like that. But that was a rapid understanding of
Yep.
how optics work, seeing the inside of it, seeing it dial, seeing it do all these things, and you're like, it started making a lot of sense. But I had the inclination previous because years ago I bought a 338 Lapua. Which was a Remington 700. There was a few on the shelf, and in SA the government had sort of clamped down on them, and then realised that perhaps they couldn't do that or whatever the thing is, and so there was like this brief period where they were like reassessing how they could qualify these things, and that's when I put one of the guys at the shop said, mate, if you're thinking about it, put the paperwork in. I'm like, all right, done. Put the paperwork in. And this at this stage was a $2,500 gun, and this is way beyond what I could do, I put the paperwork in and I got it, and then like 2 weeks later they hit some ban list that it was really difficult to get. So I was very fortunate to sort of fall into the time frame that was correct. Anyway, I got laughed at by guys in the shop, like other blokes who work there, because they're like, you don't know how to use that, you don't know this and that, and you're like, you got no clue what you're doing. All legitimate, all fair comments. I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew that at some point I could afford a scope to match this gun.
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't throw the Tasco on it, did you?
No, I did not. In fact, I oiled the thing up, I put it in its box and I shoved it in the safe with the intention that when I could afford to buy the right scope, then I would shoot it.
Oh, nice.
And I had my eyes on a Tasco World Class, $500 for it. But anyway, the point being, that I wanted that gun, and I'm really happy that I got it, because it'd be very difficult to get a hold of these days here. But I probably went 3 years without firing around through that thing until I could actually get it set up, and then put a night force on it and took it out to eventually took it out to a couple Ks. But yeah, I think I remember one time down on Andrew Noble's relations farm. They and being there with my Thompson Center 308. And so this is a lightweight hunting gun, no muzzle brake, but I had the right scope on it. I had like a 3-15 NXS adjustable second focal plane, but it was all ticking along. And there was a target at like 400, 500, 600, I don't forget the details, but there was, and I started working through it, and it was really giving me an understanding that the work here, as long as I didn't hit that barrel up too much, the work here was being done by the optic. And I was going through these distances, and I think I got out to about 920 meters or something like that, whatever that 900-ish target was, and I was nailing that thing. And I'm like, this is coming out of a pencil-thin barrel, giving it time to cool down, but this is coming out of a pencil-thin barrel. I'm
That's
like,
it.
This is okay. That was a real moment I particularly remember, because it clicked that, right, this is not the gun. This is purely, as long as you've got an optic that's doing what it's meant to, as well as the knowledge base to be able to do this. And I was getting a lot of help at that point. But I remember hearing those dings on the target and being like, oh man, this is amazing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, from a little hunting gun.
Yeah, it's one of those things you could, they say, like, general rule of thumb, spend just as much, if not more, on the scope than the rifle. Yeah. Because I guess, you could have the most accurate rifle in the world, but if you can't see your target clearly and dial reliably, then you got no chance.
I actually, I put up I did a video on ID about like the 4 things to choose in a PRS scope, like four key things, right? And then that's not an exhaustive list by any. It was just purely like a getting started. It was dialable turrets, a good reticle, first focal plane for PRS, and generally MRAD. Again within the context of PRS, that's not exclusively always those things. There's plenty of other things in there. But anyway, I put that into TikTok the other day. Put it out there, and one of the comments was, spend as much on your scope as your rifle. No, spend twice as much on your scope as your gun. And I'm like, there's a point that is not true anymore. because like early days, absolutely with that Thompson. That Thompson was probably a $1,500 gun, and I probably had a $3,000 scope on it, and that was the magic.
Yep.
But now I think my the hot dog gun would be in the vicinity of a $10,000 rifle. I can't find a $20,000 scope. I mean, one, I can't find $20,000. Let's just be upfront about that. But two, there is a point where that diminishes. But I think the crux of the idea is that that your scope is so critical, and you've got to get to a reasonable point with it. And I think so many people, you're right, when they first start out, it's all about the rifle because that's the thing that looks sexy. It's not just a little black tube. Whereas I think a lot of us now, like we like one of the first things you look at is like a scope, and you're like, oh, that looks good.
Yeah.
Looks
well, like
really
the little numbers.
Yeah, the white turret on this Burris is looking pretty sweet. I think that's I guess interesting thing.
I guess as technology in optics has improved, the cost hasn't skyrocketed.
Yeah,
but
true.
It's had to remain competitive. But also the technology in rifles has improved huge. So for what probably used to be a really expensive rifle, now you can get still a really good quality rifle on the cheaper side.
Yeah.
And you can get a really good quality scope for not crazy amounts of money either. Like I know Vortex have and Burris have some awesome options out there that will get you to 1,000 meters easy.
Yeah.
And you don't need to spend $5 or $6 grand on a rifle. Can be just a pretty basic 308.
Well and truly. So where do you think, or what advice? I mean, you talked about some new shooters coming out, and taking it from like, right, I'm into shooting, I'm into guns, this is fun, to I can hit a target consistently at 500 meters. There's often a disparity in where it takes that time. Like, what are some of those key elements of understanding or knowledge that you can put into place to be able to get there, as far as you're concerned?
To be able to get to reliably shooting at 500.
Yeah, let's say if that was the goal, because from a PRS point of view, if you can consistently shoot at 500 meters targets, you're in with a chance. Let's say, right? There's obviously so many other factors to win a big match, or whatever it is. But just to we see it with new guys there. There's that. They rock up and you're like, hey man, have a crack with the match. And they're like, yeah, but I don't even know how to hit a target at 300. Yeah. And you're like, that's a really fair point. Like, if you don't understand what to do with your gun, how do you feel comfortable like going, oh yeah, the target's 500 meters, and you tell you, Andy, this stage is 500 meters. You're like, okay, cool, write it down.
2.6 mils.
Yeah, exactly right. Like you're all over it, and going from this is often what we lose sight of. I think we going from. I was like, I'm taking 30 rounds to zero at 100 meters. Yeah, and you're like, people say that, and you're like. Like the initial reaction might be like, why? And then you're like, well, hang on. No, really? Like, I remember like...
Should we refer back to that boxed 1000 when I'm pretty sure I did take like 12 or 15 rounds?
Oh, that is true actually. But that aside, like you refer back to when I remember like I'd go out shooting multiple times to try and get a zero on a gun. Yep.
And you're just burning ammo, burning
exactly
time.
Right. Whereas now, if you haven't got your zero squared away in 4 rounds or 5 rounds, you're like wondering, like you start pulling things apart, going, "Oh, this mount's bloody useless," or something's going wrong. And I think it's sort of really being able to give those little clues and tips as to how to go from struggling to zero to nailing 500, and being in a position where you can enter a match and feel comfortable that you're capable of hitting those targets, as opposed to being like, oh man, if anything over 200 meters in this match, I'm struggling. Which and to be fair, rimfire exists in this point, which is because most of your targets are within 25 to maybe 75, which really is holding at the target or a bit above. And above gets you
top it, so
quite a few hits in that regard. Yep. But then taking that next step.
Yeah, so I know, I guess early on coming from going, all right, so I can zero my rifle in 20 rounds and, it's good at 100, I can hold over just at 150, but what's next? It's sort of that knowledge base, or you have to, as a new shooter, go to a club or approach people who do sort of know what they're talking about. Like on the internet, it can get just so content heavy or like so info heavy, and it's hard to sift through it.
Yep.
But like I sort of learnt stuff by getting shown and like walking through like step by step.
Yeah. I think that's pretty important.
Yeah. Otherwise, I felt like online there's just so much stuff, and you're like, hang on, I got to do this and then this and then this, and it's all a bit overwhelming. But
yeah, totally.
And but yeah, when I have been at the range, and it's just okay, bore sight it. This is 3 steps and this, and then take a shot, adjust, take a shot, do a group, whatever. It's really not as overwhelming. And then, trying to step it out to 500 meters, again, like there's just so much information on ballistics, wind, your data for your bullets, all your fancy stuff, all your gadgets you can get. But it can be a lot more simple. It can be as simple as you want it to be, or it can be as complex as you want it to be.
Yep.
So I remember early on with the 270, I would literally jump on the website, look up, I think back then it was a Hornady ballistics calculator on the website, because I was using Hornady ammo, factory ammo. And I was like, right, this ammo, 0 to 100, this scope height, I want to go out to 500, and it prints out your data. And as long as you've got a reliable scope that will dial, or you've got, something along those lines, it's sort of that, just trust the system a little bit, have faith. You're not going to break it. But yeah, I think going out with someone or having someone walk you through it is a massive bonus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, if you do rock up at the range and you're like, I've only ever shot out to 150, 200 meters, and that's just using a bit of holdover and Kentucky windage, then, pull one of us up and go, okay, like it won't take us long to go, all right, well, this is your velocity, we'll help you out with getting data out to 500, and it's not a big overwhelming task, and it can be really simple.
Yeah, I think that's true. One of the things that, like, from a practical point of view, from something you can do, like getting to understand how a scope functions, because I don't know about you, but my dad had the guns. Yeah.
Do you dial up? Do you dial down? Like, which way? If you're zeroing, do you?
Well, my dad had the guns, so you did not touch the turrets.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. And so I remember having a 22 Hornet, and it would shoot high and to the right. So you would aim low and to the left. That was how you got your 100 meter zero.
Yep.
Legit. Yep. And I've spoken to many people who are the same way. Like, the turrets were set. You don't mess with the turrets. The turrets are where they are. And that's where the gun shoots.
Yep. That is zeroed.
Shoots a bit to this side, a bit to that side, and you sort of know that and account for it.
Yep.
Cool. And so that's where I came from. Like, you never took caps off turrets, you never touched it, all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then, so I can totally get it. You get the first one, you're like, all right, I gotta connect these things too, and you're like, the dude at the gun shop did it, and then you like put it on paper, and it's like an inch to the left. You're like, yeah, good enough. Yeah. All right, cool. I'll just hold an inch to the right. Like, we're fine here. And so I think one of the things that I found very useful for both myself, but also for others, was to do try and get like an A3 piece of paper if you can, something a little bit larger, and have a couple of dots on it, and being able to manipulate the turrets to move your point of impact away from your point of aim, and realizing that those are two very different things. So obviously your point of aim is where you're pointing the crosshairs, and your point of impact is where your bullet goes. Now, normally, of course, at 100 meters or 50 meters, or depending on which way you set it up, you want those two things to be aligned, or perhaps you want to go an inch high, or whatever it might be. But understanding, like, as you dial that scope, that bullet moves up, down, and not doing that. A lot of people fight that and like, oh, I'm trying to get it to the center and trying to do this. Yeah. That's cool, but sometimes it's kind of useful, at least maybe once, to embrace that, to go, right, okay, how much do I have to dial to get to the top of the page? Right, you wind it like 3 clicks and you're like, oh, okay, I didn't do a whole lot. And then you wind it 30 clicks and you're like, oh, I can't see it anymore. And so being able to sort of have an understanding of like moving around. There's a thing called a box test where you're trying to shoot groups in each corner of the page and then come back to center. Really great exercise to get a feel for how that happens. And I think for many people, the fear of like touching their turrets and adjusting things and losing their zero is a big factor. And I think something practical like that, you start seeing, okay, as I dial this up, right, this bullet's gone higher. And you go, right, I can see now that if I want to shoot further, I need to keep the bullet up further in the air longer. And so I dial it up. And so if I'm shooting it, 30 centimeters higher, okay, well that's 3 mil now in our language, but that might sustain that bullet in travel for X amount of distance. And so a bit of an understanding of how that works and that sort of thing. So I think that can be a really useful little test or little practical skill to develop and start moving your bullet around the page as you shoot at 100 meters without having to worry about wind, without having to worry about a whole stack of other factors that you're still hitting the page. You might be shooting larger groups or whatever it is, but you're still getting report on it.
It's sort of that trigger time, familiarising yourself with your rifle, your scope, how it works. Because if you are ever on a hunting trip and the thing falls off the ute or it gets knocked over and suddenly you go to, recheck zero and you're off by 20, 30 mil. You sort of need to be familiar with your setup and know how to solve that. Doing those basic tests, at least, sure, you might burn a bit of ammo, but you'll start to understand, like you said, how is this actually working and how are these two things talking to one another, and then how does this relate to my little printed out chart that I got? And
the first gun I had where I started to understand some of this stuff was a 22-250 I bought. Came in second hand at the gun shop I was working at. It was a REM 700 VSS F2. That means anything to anyone with a Leopold VX3 long range or something. I'm sketchy on those details now. But it was a pretty solid package. It was pretty well priced. Picked that up, and it was great. I've still got the gun actually, not the scope for a long time. But and I remember going out, and this was the gun that I probably started to cut my teeth on a bit of like, all right, if I hold at this point, I'm starting to hit the target there. And it was very rudimentary, no understanding of ballistic data per se, certainly no ballistic calculators, but just like, all right, I'm shooting this at 100, 200 it's gone low, so I'm going to hold it up and okay, I can hit that. And now I'll go to 250, 300, wherever you start doing it. And that was real raw testing, learning and understanding. And I think a lot of times people, sort of now you're like, oh, mate, let me just run through some data through for you. And you're like, oh, first shot, bang, 500 meters, like all over it, which is awesome. It's great knowledge to have. But for a lot of people, that can be super daunting despite it only being one shot. And there's an element of going through that process of, even if it's, 200, 250, 300, you start, there's two things that are happening. One there is you're starting to understand what that drop means, like you're seeing physically where on the paper it's going down here now, or you're shooting under that target. Okay, right, if I aim at this point, I'm now hitting the target. Okay, so it's dropping X about this sort of size. The other thing that's happening there is you're setting more rounds down range. And for new shooters, sending more rounds down range is extremely beneficial because just practice helps immensely.
Oh, definitely, It might even like bring up other things that you didn't really think were a big issue, like wind. Like once you start going out there, you're like,
yeah, that's true.
Oh, what do you mean I'm hitting like way over to the left or the right? Yeah, it's like, it's wind. What? Yeah, it's a true. Laser.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people think that it's particularly when they're starting out that thing is moving so fast, just bang, like you pull the trigger and it's there.
Yep.
And obviously the further you go out, most of our listeners will understand that that's not the case. It takes time to get there.
Yeah, that's it.
And the longer it's in those elements, the more effect there is on it.
Yeah, I remember one of the guys saying like, oh, so if it's really windy and I'm out spotlighting, I need to hold for wind. Sure do. Yeah. Well, at least guess, but don't get your kestrel out. And it does play a role, definitely.
Absolutely. I remember so one of the things we used to do when we would have sort of general groups come out and shoot, we had a fox target at 200 meters, right? So for you're just like, oh yeah, whatever. But for someone who's like, that was their first experience shooting, that with the 223, now the 223 was a pretty solid hit, you know, but from you'd be like, all right, it's pretty windy today. I want you to aim at the nose of the fox, and you'd hit the thing in the arse, or I want you to aim like on the edge of the frame, and they'd be amazed at how far off they were hitting, aiming, and it was hitting. But we'd often try and get them to do the 200-meter fox with a 22.
Yeah,
and it was funny because some guys would come through with a little bit of firearms knowledge, and you'd be like, they'd be with like a group, and so they'd know a reasonable amount, and there'd be a couple other people in the group who had no idea, and you're like, all right, I'm going to get you to aim at that fox and shoot that, and the old mate there's like, 22, you can't do that. And so we'd be like, all right, hold on to that fox. I want you to aim at this particular patch in the dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you recognize this rock, right? Aim at that, and then I want you to move to the right, like X distance, because it's windy as. And they were like, I'm nowhere near this target.
Yep.
Like, I know, that's fine. Just aim there. And they'd shoot and they'd hit this thing, and they'd be like, over the moon. They're like, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah.
And then their mate was like, how did you do that? And it often would lead to like a really good discussion, because obviously they knew a little bit about it, and you're saying, hey, look, here's what we're doing. Like the thing is still flying out there, and we can still, we're subsonic with it, so we can still understand what it's doing.
Yep.
And yeah, it was quite often a great opener to sort of start building that knowledge for those people of how and why and what we were achieving. But I remember just particularly some of the fresh guys, like how far we were aiming, like 3 meters off the fox. Right. Like it was just it was quite challenging to do sometimes, but it was great for people to have that understanding and what they're doing. And you always try to explain, like, rather than just like, so you might say, hey, hold here and shoot. Oh yeah, hit. And you're like, so here's what's happening to your bullet.
Yeah.
And this is why we have to hold higher. And and most people can understand that is what's going on and all that sort of thing, but maybe not intuitively. Yeah. Maybe not like, oh yeah, I guess I aim higher because the bullet's dropping. Yeah, it makes sense. Yep. But if you
to delve into it, just that extra step, and
that's
really,
right. Yeah, it's like, what's happening? Isn't this thing just speeding out? And it was it led to some excellent sort of discussions, and hopefully built some knowledge around what was happening. And then you're like, oh, cool, man. If you imagine if you had to shoot to 1,000 meters, what you'd have to do, and it would go from there. So.
Yeah, and I guess you probably would have had a pretty similar situation with the like shotgun shooting. Like you're leading and you're lagging and holding over, or you don't just hold on the target, do you?
No.
You got to aim where it's going, but then allow for distance a bit, and all that sort of.
Yeah, shotgun certainly has that. And look, I was never any stunning shotgun shooter. I was just on the verge of like sort of wanting to take it seriously. Oh, yeah. And then I'd actually set up this agreement with work where I was going to go off. I was going to leave early on a Wednesday, go off to the range, and I was going to put in like a 2 or 3 hour session every week, because I was like, I'm okay at this, and I could pursue this. And then something changed at work, and I went to one session, and then it all fell apart, and so I didn't end up doing that. And that really is. Otherwise, perhaps who knows? Maybe I was talking to a podcast about shotgunning. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? Maybe I pursue that and not be very good at that either. Could happen. But anyway, we really got to the rifle side of things. Yeah, I found that interesting. Because there was a lot more natural feel with shotgun, and whereas rifle was this understanding of knowledge, and obviously being able to hit stuff. There's a lot of natural talent based on shooting with rifles, but there's this real deeper understanding of how you can get out to that target. Yep. And I think for a lot of new shooters, it is a process, and you're not going to like go out once and shoot 1,000 meters and hit it because someone tweaked your rifle up for you, and you'd be like, oh, dude, I'm all over this. I mean, there's just
nailed it.
There is a pathway. Yep. There is a big pathway, and it takes time, and it really just takes time.
So it's a steep learning curve. As soon as you start, jumping down all the YouTube channels and reading through all these documents and stuff, you're like, what? Yeah, my head hurts.
We used to do a long range package, so we take some crew out. They may have had experience in firearms, they may never have shot a gun before, and we'd start the day off on 22s, and I mean, it was a full day of shooting, and it would come together 1,000 meters. But we'd start off with 22s, and we'd be talking why, and it was really about sort of as quickly as possible, sort of building a couple of fundamentals about their shooting. And 22 is obviously a really easy way. And I'd encourage people who are getting into it, they think, oh, no, I'm only going to shoot centerfire because that's, the big boys' toys. No. the rimfire is such a great way to get into it. And it exposes so many of your flaws very quickly because you try and shoot a really good group at 100 meters with a 22. You work out what you're doing wrong real quick. That's really quick. And so we'd put them on the 22s, and when we'd give them a couple little tips, and we would want to see that group size come down to something that was acceptable, at least all within the same point of aim, as in not dancing around the page. And then we'd move up to 223s and put a few down there, and we'd take those 223s around and maybe go 200 and 300 on them, throw out to a 308, and that would be sort of from that 300 to 800 meters, and then there would be the 1,000 meter shot, and you'd have 10 rounds to get as many as you could. And I think off memory, we were at about like an 82% hit rate that you would hit a round at 1,000 meters out of your 10.
Yeah, nice.
And given that most of these people hadn't shot a rifle at the beginning of the day, just stepping through this process, and some guys were really happy for you just to touch the dials and they would aim wherever you said. But a lot of people really wanted to understand why. And we would make sure there was a lunch break in there at an appropriate time. You could sit down and explain a little bit about how and why and what you were doing, and by adjusting the scope, it was pushing this up and down and moving, all that sort of thing. Well, the one we didn't really delve into was wind, because obviously that is something that just has to come with time. For a lot of it, there's skills you can train definitely, and with everything, this thing you can learn, but that is like a rinse and repeat process that just you've got to get your head around over time and experience. But we would, certainly for the dialing side of things, I had a few guys who were like, all right, cool, so tell me what to dial and I'll adjust the scope for it. Like, yeah, no sweat. But we had a pretty good hit rate for the 1,000 metres, which I was pretty
awesome.
happy with.
How many mines did you blow? Did you ever go into, all right, now that we've sorted out elevation, what about Coriolis effect and spin drift and aero jump? And
we would, in that, because that was general, like brand new guys, we would leave that all out.
Oh, for sure.
But I remember the long range courses we used to run. So you do it was a 1 day fundamental course, and this was the basics of long range. This was we would do a bit of shooting in the morning at 100 metres. And so you were talking about position. You're talking about go through all the fundamentals. And you would do that. And I remember we would get to lunchtime, right? And we had not moved off the 100 metre range. And I remember, you sit there at lunch and you're like, all right, you guys enjoying your long range course that we've spent 4 hours at 100 metres? And they're all like, there was a little bit of
yes,
like, like that sort of thing. I mean, they're learning stuff, but they're like, oh, okay, and like. We are at 100 meters. Like, okay, obviously that's important. And I'm like, that's awesome, man, because after lunch, our first shot's 800 meters. And they would just go, what? Like, not understanding that, you don't have to go the 200 and then the 300.
You don't have to walk it out.
That's right. But we would that's why we would spend 4 hours at 100 meters, because we need those fundamentals to be pretty solid, or at least you're having a good understanding of what to work on. We need to collect data correctly. We need to do a bit of testing on your scope and check all your equipment. Then lunchtime, you would go out and 800 meters. And I reckon, generally speaking, within 3 shots, 95% of guys were on 100 meters. On about about a 30 centimeter target.
At 800.
At 800. So it was good. It was encouraging. And then from there, it was you'd build that skill. So we would to explain, because that's what we're trying to do, is trying to put some info out there, is we would spend some time on the fundamentals to make sure that the group sizing they were getting was sensible to be able to put it at 800 and actually be able to engage that target correctly. If there was errors or issues, we'd see what we could identify. We'd use a little bit of slow motion video stuff. That's super, super useful skill. And then we would run over chronograph, which we did have. We did touch on, particularly on longer courses, like why you don't need the chronograph. But we'd do that, and we would build out a profile on a ballistics program. And then you would use that data. you would check it over lunch. You'd go through it, make sure it was correct. You have a really tight zero locked down, and then out to 100 meters, and you be bang. And then at that point, they got the understanding of like let them dial their scope, let them do all that sort of thing. You'd be like, all right, guys, there are targets at 200, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500. Go.
Work it out.
And
that's it.
They would be able to, and it was really encouraging seeing these guys who have just shot 800, go from 100 to 800 to then now wind back and allow them that freedom to play what they thought they were going to do on the way out to go, no, your data's good now. Come back. And it would then show whether or not that 800 meter was a real lucky shot and it wasn't actually to do with what they'd done. And I'll tell you about one of those in a moment. But and they would, they'd be like, all right, cool, 350. They'd go through their process. They'd put it in the data calculator, and then they'd shoot the target, and they'd hit, and they'd be like, oh, right, great,
this works.
And it was really good way. And so we had one guy who shot, I think, once or twice, and then he hit, maybe on the second shot, he hit the 800 meter target, and he hit it bang on in the center. And we were using a bullseye target, so it was a big round target with a gap in the center, and then a separate target behind that gap. And he hit right in the middle, flicked it out. We're like, dude, nailed it. You're on, man, awesome. But we didn't see where his first shot went. Like, no idea where it went. Okay, all right. Anyway, on to the next guy. Next guy, 2 or 3 shots in, bang, yeah, sweet. There we go. Excellent. All right, guys, have a bit of a play. And he was like dialing and just nowhere near anything.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? You nailed that 800 meter target, like perfectly. So looking through his data, and we'd worked out that he had. Now I'm going to get this one wrong because it was a few years ago. He had put a G7 in as a G1 or a G1 in as a G7. One of the two, he'd reversed that around. Now, this is a thing we'd covered, but obviously it slipped through on his data. And we're like, all right, that seems odd. What did you dial up for 800 meters? And he told us. We're like, whoa, how did you hit 800 meters with whatever mils you dialed? And the only thing we can put it down to is he hit a rock or something that it would ricochet off at like the 300 meter mark, which is what he had actually dialed for, 300 or 400 meters. Yeah. It had ricocheted off in this magical fashion that then nailed the dead center of the 800 meter target.
Jeez.
And that's why he couldn't repeat it and couldn't do it again. But his data was that far off that he must, because there was this little sort of hill before that, and he must have clipped the top of that hill and he then ricocheted straight into that target. And phenomenal. But after that, we would be after that, we learned a lesson. We would be asking the guys what their drop was for the target, and they'd be like,
because ballpark sort of what you're looking at.
A guy goes, 8.3 and then 9.7, and one guy goes 3.1. Like, whoa, hang on, let's just let's just look at that one a little bit closer.
Yeah, what are you running, mate?
Yeah. So
some hot lures.
375 shade. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, but the. So that was an interesting one, but generally speaking, that sort of process of being able to do that data and I think that's where we're clubs and encourage clubs, as more and more clubs are popping up, which is awesome to see. Running those days of really teaching that sort of stuff, maybe in that little bit more formal environment, can be really useful. To do.
You're really taking like a rookie who. Won't touch elevate, won't touch the dials, won't touch anything on their scope, and just use holdovers to being a little bit more precise and self-sufficient in gathering their data, which then they can transfer to any rifle or any sort of platform. And also then help out their friends. And that way, like you said, you're just growing that knowledge base for a lot of shooters. And what can go wrong?
Absolutely. It's good. So I think that I guess we want to encourage and seek questions on perhaps we can perhaps we can provide some info, because there's a lot of people who get intimidated about going to a match or even a club match. And my first encouragement is go with 22, because it's a lot of it you can just ballpark until you start getting those further ranges. So it's a really good entry to it, but also like some of this key sort of information needs to be. We haven't talked about it for a long time.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
Perhaps we will talk about it.
Maybe that's why people listen to us to get information sometimes.
I was going to say, maybe people have listened to us because we... In fact, I'm not sure why people listen to us, and they're probably not sure why they listen to us. But here we are.
That's it.
Speaking of not being sure about anything you do in life, we've got a new video coming out. On Impact Time. Was that a good segue? Josh liked that one. Was that good, Josh?
I'm just trying to wonder what you're saying about my editing skills there. Gee.
I'm not saying a lot. So we got a new video coming out. And if you remember, you referred to it earlier in the show about the Box to 1,000 challenge.
Yes.
That you were on.
Yep.
You were on. Well, that's right. And you didn't do so well with it. Oh, no, you came second.
Yeah, I came second. Right. It was a slow start.
It was a very slow start. And that was where we took 4 guys: Nick from Ignition Custom, Ben Long Gun Project, Travi who was the MD for Monado Meltdown, Ignition Custom Monado Meltdown, and then yourself, whatever it is you do. And we took your scopes off, and you got given a Falcon scope to put on there. And the first one you had to shoot 100 meters and then run around to 1,000 meters. And first one on target won the scope to give away, which I'm not sure Nick's given that away, but anyway, we'll chase that down. And so we then did, a few months later, we filmed a follow-up challenge to it, which was in December 2019.
God, gee.
Yeah. Anyway.
Different day back then.
Different day. And then, of course, everything happened with COVID, and we started editing it and then hit some snags. Anyway, we finally have got back on the... I say we. Josh has finally got back on the horse.
Yeah, mate. Took you long enough.
And he has put together a pretty good looking video from the challenge. And so, Andy, do you want to sort of talk about what it was in principal detail? In principal detail. Is that a phrase that's ever been used before?
Oh, should I say it was loosely based on a drinking game?
You can say that, because it was. The bit that was missing out of the drinking game was the drinking. So I think that's fair.
Yeah. There was no alcohol.
No.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called the Centurion Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
1 shot every minute for 100 minutes.
Yep.
That's maybe where we leave it.
Is that the end of it? Yes. So
wind was definitely a factor.
There was 8 shooters, and there was some rules that you had 100 targets, 100 different targets, and you had to move to the next target each time, and you couldn't take any more than 1 shot in a minute.
This was at 200.
At 200 meters, and you couldn't skip any shots either. That's it. And I tell you what, let's put some of those disclaimers out straight up. The predicted forecast for that day was around 47 degrees. We were like, well, we need to get this done. We got some dudes from Interstate who are here. Let's start at like 8 in the morning or 7 in the. I think we were up there at 7.
Yep.
And I think we started filming about 8:30. And I tell you what, how was that Mirage?
Toast. Oh, the Mirage was wavies.
Wavies?
Wavies.
Is that okay?
It was wavies, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was
there was
way not visible.
There's plenty of squiggles.
Yeah, it was Squiggle Town, definitely. It was anyway, but these
Wait, what do you mean Mirage at 200 meters? It's not a thing, is it?
Well, I don't know. A lot of people didn't do so well. Let's put it that way. We had people bailing for all sorts of reasons. And
a lot sooner than expected.
A lot sooner. Well, I remember talking to you guys about it and saying that we'd done this concept and we tried a few different methods of how to do it, and really we struggled to get much past 30, high 30s, maybe low 40s of the rounds. Like it's like your back starts seizing up because you're laying prone for however long, and like you can get up for a little period of time, but you've got to come back. You can't go too far. Yeah,
it's amazing how quick a minute goes.
Yeah, and so if you shoot outside the minute, that's it. You're gone, and as soon as you're gone, you're out. It's elimination. There's no second chances, and so it was. I think it was far more challenging than any of you boys thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was giggling because I knew it's tough. And I actually think that people watching the video will be like, oh, that's easy.
It's easy.
That's easy. I can do that.
Yeah, we all thought it was easy.
I look forward to someone doing that.
On a 40-degree day with Mirage.
47.
Oh.
And so I think that but what we're going to do to supplement this is we're going to put those targets up on the Impact Dynamics website so people can download them. They can print them off if they want. You say 3, but anyway, they'll be there. There'll be sort of a real sort of rough guideline of that, and as well as the app that we use for the timing side of things. It just did this beep and show this timer. Very, very simple to do. And so we encourage people if they're in a position to be able to try it. It is. Well, you told me. I didn't shoot it. Was it good fun?
Yeah, it was really good fun. Yeah, so it takes a little bit more focus than you'd expect, and it was a lot easier to mess up than you expected. Yeah, and if you weren't like sort of on your game for each shot, you just
drift off.
Well, yeah.
There's going to be a couple of little learning curves that we got out of it that I'm going to recommend people. Like it'll be into the rules. Like so, one of the things that we definitely could have done better was we had all the paper for everyone was white.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so what I'd suggest if I would have a color, like, so, you would have green paper for your targets. Someone else would have blue paper. Someone else had red, some pink and orange or whatever it was, because there was a lot of shooting other people's targets involved, because they'd come back on and because you're under pressure, you don't have the time to sort of check. That's my target there because we're all up to the same number. And then you shoot and you're like, oh, hang on, I'm 3 boards over. Yeah. Right. And so, damn it. I mean, the colours would be good, but then again, you want the drama of shooting the wrong target. And anyway, so there's some surprises in there. There's a few There's a few people who thought they did really well who then went down range to check and realised they didn't. And there's a few people who perhaps pulled the pin a little bit too early.
Yeah, that spin drift will get you.
At 200 metres, it sure will. So anyway, so that's coming out. I'm looking forward to that going out. That'll be sometime in mid-May.
And if people see a before and after photo of me, I look completely different.
We'll have to do like a before and then after, like how it was and how it's going now, because things have improved for you from a visual point of view.
Thank you.
Took me a few edits to go, oh, hey, that's Andy. I know him.
Quick blur out the phase, blur it.
Let's just say you were a true blue Creedmoor shooter back then.
Oh. I'm still a Creedmoor shooter.
I know, but you looked the part back then as well.
All right.
If that makes some sense. So anyway, that's coming out. Stay tuned for that one on the Impact Dynamics channel. Well, no doubt by the next episode we'll have a bit of a breakdown of some of the things that went wrong at we'll start definitely talking about it. So guys, when that drops on the Impact Dynamics YouTube channel, make sure you go and watch that, and then we will be talking about some of the things that didn't quite work out. Anyway, all good. Excellent, mate. Well, what's next on your shooting agenda? Oh, we've got our challenge thing, haven't we? We've got our challenge in the rimfire comp.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, although we've probably got a podcast between then and now. But to reiterate, I've got to get 30% of your score the next rimfire match. Is that right?
That doesn't sound right. I've cottoned on to you now.
Damn it.
Well, I think it was the other way.
You can stop recording now, Josh. We don't need to. I was trying to get in. Anyway, 70%. I have to get 70% of your score in the next rimfire match. Yep. Otherwise, you clean my guns or I clean your guns, depending who loses and wins.
We'll clean each other's guns. See? Maybe we'll get Canada Dave.
All right, I'm out.
Thanks for listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast. To continue the discussion, check out our Facebook page. And for more information, head to our website, www.precisionshootingpodcast.com.au. This episode was brought to you by Impact Dynamics.